Hello everyone, welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today on the show we have, actually I think it might be their first time on Mining Now, but they have been huge supporters of the show over the years. We've done interviews on the Crownsmen show and Agriculture Now, I think Building Energy, but now we're focused on one of our favorites here is Mining Now. So we have Wajax, Joe Rydel, he's the National VP of Mining Operations at Wajax, and we have Yves Girard, he is, Yves Girard, he is the Regional Vice President at Oil Sands and Mining. Joe, Yves, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, I think we should just start with roles here, just so people have context. Joe, maybe let's just kick it over to you first. What's your role with Wajax?
Sure. So as you noted, I'm the National Vice President for Mining Operations. What that means is I've got direct day-to-day responsibility for the parts and service operations, really the after support of our mining equipment, Hitachis being the largest brand. We'll talk a bit more about that as the day goes on here, I think. But I also have indirect responsibility to some of our farther reaching mining operations across the country, everywhere from BC to Ontario and beyond, to support those branches with things like marketing, strategy, pricing, and all that sort of stuff.
And Yves, how about you?
So as the Regional Vice President for Oil, Sand, and Mining, I have a dual role at Wajax as well. I've got regional responsibilities for everything that goes on as far as Wajax in the oil sand. That means all revenues, operation, and people. And then on the other side, I'm also the mining category lead across the country. So that means I'm responsible for all mining customers and mining products across Canada.
You mentioned, Joe, you mentioned Hitachi. How long has Wajax been the Hitachi dealer?
Oh, geez, it's been several decades, probably over 30 years, Yves.
Yep. Yeah, it's been about 30 years nowadays. Yep.
It's a wild thing. Just seeing. Well, I mean, having Wajax is one of those companies. Every time we have you on the show, I just learn just a whole other level about the company. We just did the agriculture episode. It was just amazing how it got walked through what you provide. But one thing I wanted to talk to, and I think we'll go with Joe on this, is the OneWay Jacks. And just sort of lay out what that is. We're obviously going to cover a lot of ground here in this episode, but I wanted to understand what that was before we sort of move into some of the other topics.
Yeah, absolutely. So she just mentioned something that's 100% accurate, and that's that Wajax, and we're a very diverse company. So we've talked to you in the past about agricultural, lots of different segments that we support. And really the OneWay Jacks value proposition is just that. We can help our customers really regardless of the segment or the industry they're in with everything that they might need in their business. And so today we're talking mining. And so when we talk about mining and we look at our value proposition in that space, we've got lots of competitors, no doubt. And we talked about Hitachi. They're the largest of our vendors in the mining space for sure, our primary product offering. But we do a lot of other things. And most of our competitors in that mobile equipment space are focused on mobile equipment. So excavators, trucks, shovels, that sort of thing. That's our primary focus as well. But the great part is that with some of the other facets of our business, industrial components, power systems, we can really help those customers from start to finish. So we focus a lot on digging the ore, whether it's in an oil sands mine or a gold mine or a coal mine. And we provide the shovels to do that and the trucks and some of the support equipment. But there's a whole lot of other processes and things that happen on those sites to process that ore once it's out of the ground. And so when you flip over to our other side of our business or other aspect of our business there in the industrial components, we're providing pumps, we're providing gearboxes, electric motors, instrumentation, filtration. I could probably spend an hour talking about all the different things we do. And what's really great about that is that our customers can look to us for solutions across that whole space. We're not just focused in on one particular piece of their business. We're interested in helping them wherever they might have challenges.
Let's talk about our Heavy Industry World Tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. And Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, easier. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsmen.com to be part of Crownsmen's Heavy Industry World Tour. With Fender Dunlop, you know you are getting the best conveyor belting in the market. That's because they ensure the integrity of their conveyor belting by monitoring each step of the manufacturing process in their North American facilities. Focused attention is given to each belting order to guarantee that they produce a belt that will assist the customer in reducing operation costs, maximizing uptime, and improving revenue. Visit FenderDunlopAmericas.com to learn more. HF Sinclair, which includes the Petro-Canada Lubricants brand, is a proud sponsor of the show. Petro-Canada Lubricants products and services are proven to maximize equipment performance, productivity, and overall savings. From heavy-duty engine oils to hydraulic fluids, ATFs, gear oils, and greases, Petro-Canada Lubricants is committed to delivering innovative solutions that deliver value and keep businesses moving. They have dedicated technical expertise, knowledge, and know-how to help customers in the mining industry operate smoothly with improved equipment reliability and performance, and help support a mining operations ESG goals. Learn more at lubricants.petro-canada.com or contact them at 1-866-335-3369 to arrange a call with one of their technical experts. Hey mining enthusiasts, registration for CIM Connect 2024 Vancouver from May 12th to 15th is now open. Last year, this convention had over 6,800 participants from 60 countries, with 1,796 delegates, 702 booths, and 320 presentations. Secure your spot and register now at convention.cim.org. CIM Connect 2024, where quality and innovation define the experience.
So when this happens, and this is actually part of the reason I wanted to bring this up so quick, is just understanding it. I mean, we're a small company. I haven't worked with a company the size of Wajax. And I do think, but I have been on mines and I have an understanding of these operations, and I'm trying to almost wrap my head around, because like for pumps, that's one segment. And then the heavy machinery, that's another segment. When you're going to a client, how much of it is, I'm just trying to think of even, how much of it is the initial thing that they're after through Wajax, and how much of it is now dovetailing all these other offerings? And you must have to bring in different teams, and I'm sure this is all part of what OneWay Jacks is, but I'm just sort of trying to get a picture of where it starts.
So let me answer it like this. If you go back probably 5 or 6 years, kind of pre-2017, Wajax was fundamentally set up as 3 separate companies. We had Wajax Equipment, Wajax Power Systems, and Wajax Industrial Components. So we all flew under the same flag per se, in that we were all Wajax. But when you were in the business, in Fort McMurray, where I'm sitting today, our teams didn't really interact with each other much. We had 3 or 4 separate locations. Those managers may or may not know each other. We had separate sales teams calling on the customers. And so if you went to one of the big customers' sites, and as an equipment representative, you might cross paths with somebody that's there from our power group or our industrial group. And so we were very disjointed in that regard. Fast forward now, and what started in 2017 was really the OneWay Jacks movement. So we restructured our sales and operations regions to focus on our customers first and foremost. And to do that, we said, look, we don't need 3 different people calling on them just because we have all these different product offerings.
Yeah.
And so today, if we move forward, the location I'm sitting in is a physical example of OneWay Jacks, where we used to have 3 different branches on this same street that I'm sitting on.
Really?
We're in one location. So we've physically become OneWay Jacks in this region. And that means when we go see our customers, it becomes a lot easier to do just what you're saying. And so we might go to a customer talking to them about our Hitachis product line offering. And while we're there, we might learn that they're having some challenges with their existing equipment. We won't name names, but maybe they're having a problem with a specific component, and we might be able to help them with that, because while we focus on supporting the Hitachis brand, a lot of the infrastructure we have, whether it's for cylinder rebuilds, electric motor rebuilds, gearbox rebuilds, a lot of that technology, that experience, and that expertise really will translate well. So we can often find other areas to help them. So we go there certainly with an agenda to support them with our product lines, but as we get to know them and build those relationships with those customers, we often can find some areas that they're challenged that we can help them with.
Orica Digital Solutions seamlessly connects customers' physical and digital worlds so they can readily understand and optimize operations at every step of the value chain, from exploration to processing. Whether deployed individually or as a whole, Orica Digital Solutions technologies deliver intelligence for open cut and underground mines to make more precise and faster decisions. With a complete, timely, and accurate picture, operations can adapt to improve safety, drive productivity, reduce costs, and environmental impacts. To learn more about Orica Digital Solutions, visit orica.com/digital solutions today. Created and designed by industry leaders with decades of frontline experience, Sophie is a platform that brings workers home every day. Give your workforce the communication tools they need on the job to do it safely and productively. Visit Sophie.com today to discover how you can leverage Sophie to increase efficiencies, mitigate risk, and optimize collaboration. Safer, smarter, Sophie. Your trusted partner of choice, Best Tech Engineering, is excited to announce that they have acquired Spencer Engineering. This allows Best Tech to add mine hoist expertise to their existing suite of services, including mining, power, electrical, instrumentation and automation, mechanical, and structural divisions. This diversification will offer clients the highest level of service and value for their projects. Don't miss out on this exciting new chapter of engineering excellence. Reach out today at besttech@besttech.com to learn how Best Tech can help you.
That's so interesting that you actually had 3 locations. This was just 5 years ago.
Yeah,
so it
and
really
actually it was
was
4 because we had 2 different equipment locations, so it was crazy. From an efficiency standpoint, it wasn't great. From a people standpoint, it wasn't great because everybody's spread out all over the city, and so now we're all in one spot, and it's great because it really does, allow us to illustrate that whole idea of OneWay Jacks.
Just from an internal, I am curious. So I would imagine that also came with challenges. That transition over 5 years. I imagine 5 years is enough to do it fully, but those first couple of years, there must have been some adjustment for people. Maybe actually both of you give an answer to that, just based on your experiences of seeing that happen.
Yes, I'll say one thing there quick, and then Yves can comment too. Absolutely, it's a massive change. These are 3 separate businesses that had operated separately for many years and decades, and so they all had different ERP systems that they operated under. They all had different support groups and all that. So just the amount of change that was involved in that was massive. And I think our customers probably saw us as OneWay Jacks long before we actually did, and felt like we were OneWay Jacks.
Right.
We're sitting in a place today where we're almost have all of those different systems aligned to really support the OneWay Jacks. So it's a massive amount of change, and that's always tough for people.
Yeah. Yves, what's your perspective?
It's certainly been a long road getting there. Just the ERP system we went through, it takes years to integrate all the ERPs into one, and we're still actually at it. We still need a few steps to be operating under the same one, and yeah, but it's really working well for the customer now, because when you look at everything we do, we can not only sell, assemble, and support mining equipment, but we can also get all the major components rebuilt internally within Wajax, within the other product line and facility elsewhere. So,
yeah, it sort of strikes me as that business culture has also changed with technology. I think the iPhone might actually be the one to take the credit, because that one button, everything in on one smartphone, or probably going back for probably BlackBerry actually. But people are sort of open to or they want this idea. They don't want to go to 3 or 4 locations anymore. They sort of almost expect now that they can filter into one area and then go out to what they need. So you're sort of at the right place in the right time to make this move as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of the same thing as, every customer is looking for one place to get it all. So one-stop shop, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're getting nowadays with Wajax. And yeah.
Yves, I want to bring you in here shortly to just go through like things like electrification and things like that, some big topics. But Joe, I just want to stay on this for one more, a few more minutes. I want to actually walk through the process of actually selling a machine, or Wajax, or buying a machine through Wajax, and just sort of having an understanding and an expectation of what clients have when they come to Wajax.
Yeah, so actually on the, Wajax sells a lot of equipment, even a lot of mobile equipment in our construction and forestry divisions where it's a lot more like buying a car. Our construction and forestry guys would probably punch me if they heard me say that. But what I mean by that is that the excavator or the forestry machine is sitting on our lot assembled and it's ready to go. Mining equipment is a whole different story. If you think about our largest mining shovel, the EX8000, it's an 800-ton machine. So it's a house. It's a small apartment building. So we can't deliver that built. It comes in something like 25 truckloads after it ships to us from the factory in Japan. And so it's a massive project once we sell one of these. So there's a huge project in itself, of course, in selling this equipment. Sometimes it happens in a relatively short order. Say a customer has a need because maybe their machine, hits the end of its useful life. They didn't do a good job planning. But in most cases in the mining space, they're very forward thinking. They've got long range plans, and so they're working, months and years in advance to make these large asset purchases. And so we typically have a lot of time, and it's a very large process to go through typically with RFPs and all that. So once we actually sell the machine, a group that works under my team then sort of starts off to the races. So we manage it like a project. We've got a large rolling action item list system that we work through to basically make sure we've got all of our I's dotted and the T's crossed. So it starts with an interaction between the operations team and the sales team to understand what we sold to the customer. What are the options? What are the special things that they want? It also talks about different contractual requirements. We build these machines on the customer sites, so there's different safety requirements that we have to go through depending on the site. Sometimes we're 100% responsible for the area, the build pad. It becomes sort of like it's almost like an embassy in a foreign country, if you will. It's like a couple hundred square meters of Wajax within that site. Other times we're under the very careful, watchful eye of the customer. So there's a lot of things like that to work through. There's of course the machines either already in our inventory or on its way. Lots of customer specific options that we need to pull together to make sure we have ready. We have to make sure that we've got our build crew ready to go. So we typically run these projects with what we call a mining project superintendent. So think of that as sort of the foreperson or the lead person on the job. They're not turning wrenches, they're not building the shovel, but they're making sure that everything logistically is in place. They're making sure that the technicians are briefed every day on what the work scope is, making sure that any sort of out of the ordinary work or large lifts, things like that everyone's properly briefed to do it safely and properly. They're doing safety checks, quality checks, things like that along the way, reporting back to both internally to our team and also externally to the customer. We have a daily sort of report process that happens. And, for those of us that aren't at the build site, it's kind of neat because you get to get a feel for where we're at, especially early on in the project as the machine goes together. You see it being built and pictures, and everybody likes to see that progress. So it's a pretty significant undertaking. Like I said, of an EX8000, it's 24 plus, full semi loads of equipment. Typically, it's the first couple of weeks of the project is getting the laydown all set, getting everything organized, and building the core structure of the machine. So it looks like it's done probably within 3 weeks, but there's a ton of work still to do after that, which is all the optional add-ons that the customers have. Things like fire suppression systems, cold weather packages, which are pretty critical. Today I'm sitting in Fort Mac where a lot of our equipment is, and it's minus 32 last time I checked. So
that's warm for Fort
lots
Mac.
of special things that they don't need elsewhere in the world that we do. So that's why, they don't come from Hitachi factories, so to speak. We put them on here. So a lot of work that happens there. Typically in the EX8000 build could take up to 2 months, depending on the site that it's on, depending on whether we're able to work around the clock or have to stick to day shifts, all sorts of things like that.
It struck me when you said that they, something like that is not just the build though, it's the selling of it. Like actually securing that they're planning that out years in advance.
Yes, usually, like I say, usually they do.
Sometimes, until they're not.
Though, like we've had, I think the quickest one, and Yves will correct me if I'm wrong here, but the quickest EX8000 sale probably transpired inside of 3 to 4 weeks. Like it was amazing how quick it was.
Wow.
And it was just a change in the mind plan at the customer. And they called us and it was the right time, right place. We were fortunate because these machines are are pretty expensive. So you can imagine we don't like to stock a lot of them, but in this case we had one, and it worked out perfect.
Yeah. Typically, so typically we get an order a couple of years in advance. That's the ideal situation. Often it's less than a year, but when you look at at factory level, they forecast these 3 years in advance, and of course they start really forecasting with all the options about a year in advance. So the process to actually order one of these machines is fairly long. And when you look at it, within a year they'll build all the components and do a final assembly. It's all built in Japan, final assembly in Japan, disassemble it, ship it to overseas to its final location, for example, Canada. So we get it through the port of Vancouver and then down to the site. So there's quite a process. When you look at it, there's about 12 months in the factory and all the components being built. There's a final assembly check and then shipping. And then from shipping, it takes almost 6 weeks just to get it to site.
Wow, that depending
And
on
then
where
you
it
have
is.
the assembly, which takes typically, depending on the size of equipment, it'll take between 4 and 10 weeks.
Yeah, wow. I know this. I have a bit of a marketing background, so when companies talk too much about their service, it's like, okay, of course you're going to have good service, but I am going to ask that question because this is a different type of service. When a company's made that type of investment, we're talking 2 or 3 years out, getting it there, the manufacturing coming out of Japan, the amount of communication and the reliance they have on Wajax is another level of service. And I'm just curious, and I want both of you to answer this just from your own perspective. How do you facilitate that? Because this isn't just selling a machine off the lot. This is, an integral part of their business, and a huge investment and
Yep.
lead time and all that. How do you approach that level of service that you need to maintain in a transaction like that?
Yeah. So basically, when you start looking just from the purchase, they need reassurance. We need to confirm and commit on deliveries. Because remember, when these mining companies are buying these equipment, that's to produce, that's for their operation, that's part of their planning. So you can't be late. You have to commit to a specific date because they needed that date to be able to meet their production. So there's a big portion of it is project management, making sure we can deliver on time. And when you look at it, they're committing 2-3 years in advance, and it's a big commitment. But when you look at it, they're actually committing for the next 15 to 20 years.
Right.
Because these equipment will be used for 15 to 20 years often.
It's amazing.
So it's a firm commitment with Wajax. And that's where we need to commit as well on product support, being there with the service and the parts to support these machines for the next 15, 20 years.
Joe, I want you to comment on it, but I'm going to actually refine the question a little bit. Is in between, well, now you've upped the stakes. You've 15, 20 years. In that time, you're selling a bearing, you're selling a pump, you're selling all this interaction can happen with that same mine. And that reflects this huge investment that they've made with Wajax. So maybe dovetail that in, that maintaining and these different people dealing with them. And this goes back to this OneWay Jacks. And even for me, it's almost overwhelming just thinking about it, is maintaining all these little mini relationships, these smaller transactions while this giant one is happening, and that level of service to kind of keep it all together while you've got this big project.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So it's the selling the machine is where it starts, but it certainly doesn't end there. It's as Yves mentioned, the life of these machines is typically 15 to 20 years. Wajax was the first Hitachi dealer in the world to sell an EX8000, which is the largest shovel that they produce, and that machine basically was just retired a year or two back. So the lifespan of these is a long time, and the opportunities or the touch points in that 15 to 20 year period are immense. In the initial stages, of course, just like any piece of equipment, there's not a ton of need for parts. It's maintenance parts like filters and fluids and that sort of thing. But as you go on and start to build hours, these machines will typically run, the bigger ones anyways, 6 to 7,000 hours a year. And so by the time you get into year 2 and 3, that's when you really start to see the opportunities for support really ramping up. So a lot of them, what we call major components. So these are the gearboxes and the hydraulic cylinders and the pumps and the motors that are critical to the function of these machines. That's when they start to reach the end of their life. So what happens at that point is that it's up to the dealer, really it's up to the customer to change that out, but we're there to support that. So we typically have at most of these sites embedded field technicians. So Wajax technicians, which are heavy equipment technicians that understand those machines, how they function, what potential issues might arise. We've got a massive parts and service department supporting those machines. So the people in the field, the people back here at the branch, in our warehouse that are there to support the parts requirements. We've got I think we'll talk about it a bit later, but we've got a massive exchange component program, because when you think about it, we take all these components off of the machine. You've got a couple of options. You can either put one back on right away, or you can take that component, send it to a shop to get rebuilt. Well, the name of the game with mining equipment is keeping it running. If it's not running, it's not producing whatever the ore is that they're digging, and it's not making money for the site. So it's critical for us to have the programs in place and support that. So, being on the operations side, it's easier for me to say this, but selling the machine is sort of the easy part, and that's not easy at all. But the downstream support is where we really try to separate ourselves. And frankly, if we don't do a good job there, selling the next machine becomes really difficult.
I would imagine,
because if we can't support it, they're not going to buy it again.
And Yves, I want to switch gears now because now there's a whole other type of support in the mining world, and that's electrification. That shift is, I would say, just ramping up globally and in Canada. What are you seeing now? I mean, of course, every mine is different, but what does that shift look like, both from your perspective, how Wajax approaches it, but also how mines are approaching it?
Yeah, certainly. So, while customers shopping for equipment nowadays are not necessarily looking for electric drive product, it's always part of the process. It's always part of their selection process, looking at what's available, but also down the road, can we retrofit into electric? So that's the other part of it. So the funny thing is, I shouldn't say the funny thing, but when you look at these electric products, specifically with Hitachi, you have the shovel that are either diesel or electric drive. And these have been available, the electric drive. So we sell mostly a diesel drive, but electric drive's been available for years at Hitachi. In fact, the first electric shovel was done in the 80s. So and really, when you look at Hitachi's the GE of Japan. So it's really an electrical company at base. So they've got all the technology and everything to do that. When you look on the mining trucks, again, the trucks are diesel, but they are AC drive. So they're electric drive. So what you have is a diesel engine running an alternator, running wheel motors, electric wheel motors. So the product's already there. It's already available. But we certainly see a big push right now the last 2-3 years on electric products. And it's part of and again, when you look at OneWay Jacks, I mean, we can rebuild electric motors, we can service them, we can do it all. So from our standpoint, it's just using more of the OneWay Jacks.
Where is one application better over another? Could you sort of walk us through maybe a couple of environments where you've seen that, okay, electrification is really, maybe even on new projects where that is actually a good fit for them, or another project where it just doesn't line up with the type of production that they have?
Yeah. So typically when you look at specifically shovels, when you look at shovels, difference between diesel and electric in terms of operation. Obviously, diesel, you have more flexibility because you don't have to worry about a cable. You don't have to manage an electric cable in the back of the shovel. So you have a lot more flexibility. If you can, imagine it when you get to the face, start digging. If you want to move somewhere else, you don't need a crew in the back to take care of the cable. You don't need the infrastructure because obviously if you're running an electric shovel, you need to have the electric infrastructure to feed the shovel as well. So big requirement is having the infrastructure there, but also looking at the flexibility and the crew, because when you look at the electric shovel, you need a crew to manage these cables and move the shovel. That's really the big difference. The other one is, when you look at shovel, mining shovel, there's two configurations. There's backhoe and there's front shovel. So front shovel, you're typically on the floor facing the muck pile or the product you're digging in. So that's an easy application for electric shovels. If you're in backhoe, you're actually sitting on the muck pile on whatever you're digging, and managing an electric cable in that condition is a lot more difficult. So not impossible, but definitely more difficult. So typically for backhoe, the selection would be a diesel drive, and then really if you're a front shovel, then you have really the options between the two.
With sort of the pressure on the mining, I mean the oil and gas industry, of course, but this is a mining show, so we'll focus specifically on them. Are you seeing now, though, that mines are they adapting their infrastructure or even their approach to extraction based on wanting electric operations? Are you seeing them adjusting the way they actually do it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, nowadays it's definitely part of the selection process, looking at electric versus diesel. The other thing also, when you look at the say a new mine opening, a brand new operation, while they might not be ready for electric at first, whatever they buy to start with, and remember, they're buying these machines, they're going to run them for 15, 20 years. So they need to think about the next 15, 20 years, how that mine's going to look like.
Yeah.
And a good example for that is trucks. So if you make your truck selection on mechanical drive, well then it's mechanical drive. You're not going to be able to switch it to electric. If you go to an electric drive, you can actually foresee once you've got establish ramps and roads in mine 5, 7, 10 years down the road, where it makes sense, then you might be able to go to trolley assist without too much of a change using the same equipment you have. So that's the other portion you need to keep in mind as well. Shovels are typically not retrofittable, so you typically, if it comes out of factory as a diesel, it's a diesel. If it comes out as a factory electric, it's an electric. Not impossible to switch them over, but more difficult. But on trucks, there's a lot of possibilities, that's for sure.
How does the decarbonization? Can you just walk it just from the Hitachi? Sort of, what are they providing? What is their approach to it?
Yeah, so basically for Hitachi, they've got a roadmap to decarbonize mining over the next 6, 7 years now, because we're looking at having decarbonized mining equipment by 2030.
Is this Canada or globally for?
That's just from a manufacturer standpoint. So having the product that can be actually that we can sell and service that are decarbonized. So no impact on the environment, basically. When you look at and the way they're doing this is basically using technology that they've been using for years. That's already developed for the most part. On the shovels, electric drive is kind of a natural. It's already available. The next step would be to have battery machine, and that's in the work. Right now, the big focus is more on the trucks. When you look at the trucks, they already have the 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 electric drive truck. They already have the trolley assist as well available. And Hitachi was a pioneer in the trolley assist. They're down to their third generation of trolley assist trucks. They've been at it for over 30 years. So that technology is proven, reliable, and they know what they're doing there. The next step is to add a battery to that. So if you can imagine it, you can actually replace the engine, the diesel engine and the alternator with just a battery. And everything else on the truck basically stays the same. In fact, they are doing proof of concept right now. They're delivering the first fleet of battery trucks for proof of concept. And I believe they should be operational within the next 6 months. And once you have a trolley assist operation with battery, basically you're charging your every time you go up the ramp on trolley mode, you're both driving your truck and charging your battery. If you go down the ramp, you're braking, then you're actually charging your battery also at the same time. So you can have a full truck cycle without having to stop to recharge the battery. The other thing they're working on is eventually they'll be looking at stationed battery charging. And that's also coming. They're also looking at the other fuel cell drive down the road, but it's still a few years away.
It's a lot to cover. I mean, we could probably do 5 episodes on just that topic alone. But just to sort of keep on, because there's a couple things I also want to cover. And actually, Joe, I wanted to ask you about the Wajax support for sustainability. That's, of course, another massive topic, but also kind of bringing in the topic of, efficiency, safety, but also that there is this idea that the equipment needs to be maintained at a certain level now because they are having trouble finding people on site and mechanics, and there's all these challenges that the industry is facing. So just talk a little bit about Wajax's approach to that.
I think I heard 2 questions there. So the first one I'll talk about is how we approach supporting sustainability. So there's a few ways we do that. And I'll speak very generally too without going directly to product lines. Hitting back on the OneWay Jacks conversation, because we have such a diverse range of product and service offerings, that allows us to be the go-to people for problems at the sites. So problems can be reliability issues, but they could also be things like, hey, we've got this large electric motor, this large gearbox. It's 30 years old. It's failed. The manufacturers tell us they don't support it anymore. We really don't want to throw it away because it's a big gearbox or a big motor. Can you guys help us? And our answer to that is, yeah, we can, because we've got, through acquisitions over the years, we've got capabilities to essentially take an old motor design, an old gearbox design, and reverse engineer it essentially. So when parts aren't available anymore for pumps and motors and gearboxes, we've got the resources and the capabilities to do that. So that's a fantastic way to extend the life of some of these larger assets that the mines have. So that extends, well beyond what we do for Hitachi into the other areas of the plant at the mine site. So that's one example. Specific to the mobile equipment and Hitachi, of course, we talked about a 15 to 20 year lifespan of these machines, and there's a lot of work that needs to get done to make those times. And a big part of that is roughly every 20,000 hours or so, and it depends on the application and the machine and all that. It's time to rebuild a lot of those components. And so our exchange program, which is essentially an investment Wajax has made in all the big major components that are required to run these shovels, allows that customer to take their machine down for an outage. The outage might be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They can swap out all those components and get that machine back up and running. And then in the meantime, we take all those components that came off that have really reached their useful life. We bring them back to our rebuild centers. And I say centers because there's various locations depending on what we're talking about. And then we basically rebuild those. So we give them a second, third, fourth life. So that's a fantastic way to keep the equipment running without tons of new investment. Because when you think about all those major components, typically there's lots of large castings or forgings that are involved, whether it's the gearboxes or the cylinder rods and barrels. Those pieces, assuming that they've been maintained and operated properly, can be reused several times. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to do our best to make that happen. The other piece of that puzzle, and without going into talking about stuff like, all the regulatory things that we all do to make sure that waste is handled properly and things in that regard of sustainability. We also do engage with these customers. And again, this could be outside the Hitachi world for things like repowers. So let's say they've got a fleet of old trucks. We're going through one right now with the customer. Fleet of trucks with an older tier emissions engine. So, the emissions of that engine is not quite as clean as what it would be for a brand new truck today. We can go work with them on repower solutions. So we can take a tier 4 engine, which has got the most current emissions, set up, and install that in that truck, make a few other modifications. And now, they've taken that truck that might have 70, 80, 90,000 hours on it, extended the life, and also cleaned up the emissions of that truck. So lots of different ways that we can support that sustainability or those sustainability initiatives. And that's fantastic. It's a win-win situation. It's a good opportunity for us because it really expands our customer base. It doesn't have to be a piece of Hitachi equipment or a pump or a gearbox or a motor that we sold initially. It could be really any brand or any make, and we can apply our expertise to really help drive value for that customer and also be sustainable.
The clients that you have, are most of them, I know I asked this on the agriculture show as well, are most of your clients aware of the capabilities, especially in the mining side? Like when they engage with Wajax, do they already have a pretty clear understanding of what you can do at different levels of service at different periods of time? Or is that something that you do still need to educate clients on? Just the sheer volume of the capabilities you have.
Yeah. I'll answer it like this. That's a huge opportunity for us and one that we chase every single day. So if in the oil sands, it's pretty simple in that there's only a handful of customers up here, right? A few operators anyways.
Right.
And so the good part about that is that we don't have very many people to talk to, but the problem is if you go to one of these sites, there's literally tens, if not hundreds of people in, reliability positions, leadership positions that we have to talk to. So spreading the message about what OneWay Jacks really means is been an ongoing challenge and will continue to be for the future. So if you go to these sites, they definitely know that we're the Hitachi dealer.
Right.
Some of them know that we're an ITT Gould's pump dealer. Some of them know different pieces of it just based on what they're doing. But every day we've got salespeople that are out opening their eyes to all the different things that we could do for them. So it's exciting in that there's just a massive amount of opportunity. And every day that goes by that we're able to educate our customers, more and more about what we can do to support their business, it's fantastic. And we're seeing it, the last year, if you go back just a year, we're doing things today at some of the sites that they didn't even know we could talk to them about a year ago.
Right.
And so it continues to be a challenge for us to keep sending that message forward and really exploring with our customers what we can do to support them.
And in many cases, you are actually, I should clarify this. In some cases, you are brand agnostic as well, right? In the support you can provide.
Yeah, 100%. Some of those examples, like I say, if they've got an old motor or a gearbox, I mean, certainly if it's a brand we support, it's easier for us to access parts. But when it becomes sort of that old legacy or they use the word obsolete a lot of times, and most manufacturers are like this. They're only going to provide parts for so long.
Right.
We can kind of give those products a second or third life just based upon the in-house engineering expertise that we've got.
And then Yves, I wanted the other big topic is automation, technology, all the safety features now. I mean, I do these interviews over and over, and it's just like a wave. I honestly, sometimes I don't understand how the mines are bringing all of it in. And I mean, they're hiring people to try to facilitate onboarding all these safety protocols, the automation, the technology that's coming in. What do you see? Is it, in 20 years, is it going to be a crew of 500 people in a control room. What is sort of the reality on the ground of how mines are? Again, the same question: how you approach it, how
Yep.
as
Yeah.
Wajax, how mines approach it, and the supporting brands that you're working with.
Yeah. So when it comes to technology, automation technology, we rely on Hitachi, and that's what we promote and sell. And when you look at the customer, I mean, it's been out there for 10 years. I'd say 10 years ago, they were talking about it. Today, that's happening. That's what they're using. That's what they're buying. So when you look at the truck fleet nowadays, uh, part of the process is to look at automated haul system. What's available, what's out there. Hitachi's got their own system. They've got, and one of the big difference that one of the things their customer are looking for is an open protocol system, so um, they're not married for life with one brand. So having one system that can integrate different brand and different type of equipment within the same operation. Um, when we look at automated haul system, yeah, it is basically, the trucks are basically running on their own without operator from point A to point B and doing the production. When you look at the shovel, that's kind of the next step that I see on the production digging side of things. Remote is available today, but eventually this operator assist. There's a lot of operator assist technology that are available today, but also in development. There's also fully automated digging. That's kind of the next step. I don't think it's fully available today, but I can see that probably in the next 4 or 5 years, that's something that we'll start seeing in the field as well. So instead of having an operator in the cab, you might have 2 or 3 shovels being operated by one operator in a control room, and basically you would just basically oversee and manage 2, 3 shovels digging at the same time. So
Is it is tech
um,
is technology? And I don't know if you have insight on this. It's just more my own curiosity. Is that is with the technology as it expands, are the manufacturers building with that in mind that 10 so lifespan is 15 to 20 years. The technology in 15 to 20 years, even the sensor technology and the autonomous operations and all that sort of stuff is going to get upgraded and evolve. Are they building the machines with that in mind, do you think? So that they're going that it can be retrofitted essentially is what I'm asking as
y-
this evolves.
yeah, and a good example of that is when you look at the truck again, for example. The truck, the technology, the information technology, the sensors that are on these trucks today, they are basically built to be retrofittable to automated haul system without
Right.
with basically adding additional monitoring and controls on the machine, but without having to change the equipment itself.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing on the shovel. The shovels are so uh, uh, computerized nowadays, and with all sorts of sensors and communication system on the machine, the technology is definitely there to be upgraded. And that's definitely that's part of the process of developing new machines today.
Yeah, again, I mean that could be another. I guess it's like
Yeah.
it's almost doesn't give it justice to just ask that question and then move on. But just trying to cover. I think as far as I know, this is if I hope I'm not getting this wrong. It's Wajax's first episode on the mining side of it, so I want to get through. Um, Joe, I want to sort of finish off with a question over to you. Is just we've probably covered a lot, but I just want to kind of close with it when you're talking to the mines, actually both of you can answer it because I think it's different perspectives on it. What do you see as their main pain points? What are they coming to you? What are their main challenges? We can cover a few different versions of it. But what is there sort of some broad ones that you're seeing?
So maybe I'll take it from the operational side of things, and then if Yves got anything to add more on the front end, that would be fantastic. And so for me, the one of the biggest ones is the skilled labor shortage that is across the country, across the continent, probably across the world in a lot of respects. A lot of it, we talk about the baby boomers retiring. We're kind of getting to the end of that now, and it shows. We've got lots of experience that has walked out the door in the past 5 to 10 years due to retirement. And it's not to say that we're not replacing those roles, but you lose a technician who has been on the equipment in the region from the first day you delivered it. It's a big loss. So that's a massive gap. It's not just us; it's all of the other dealers. It's all of the mine sites. Probably by extension, anybody in the heavy equipment industry. It's a massive challenge, and it's not going to go away. So I kind of hit on the population aspect of it, or the demographic aspect. The other side of it is, I think there's a lot of people nowadays, kids. I've got a daughter in high school, another one not too far behind. I'm not sure that they get presented with these types of careers as opportunities.
I did,
and let me tell you, they're great opportunities, and they pay really, really well. And so that's another issue. And I mean, I can't drive too far in Alberta without seeing a sticker that's something to the effect of "dirty hands, clean money." And there's a lot to be said about that. There's nothing wrong with getting your hands dirty, and you can make a really good living doing it. So whether it's a heavy equipment technician or a plumber, an electrician, whatever it is. So that's probably the number one challenge that's faced by not only our customers, but us. And then there's the usual characters around, reliability of equipment, and the resulting downtime, and, ever shrinking capital and operating budgets, right? It doesn't seem to matter. There have been times in my career supporting the mining industry where it's made sense that they're cutting budgets, COVID for one, and other sort of global situations like that. But lots of times it's just change of leadership and tightening of the belts and all that sort of stuff. So, but the skilled labor shortage is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, I think the industry. I think the industry and I mean, I'm 35, right? And when I was in high school, just to be completely frank, going into like mechanics and that, it was like a default. It's like I don't really have much to do. Okay, guys would go be mechanics. That was the culture. And I was in a 80,000 people kind of city, and it was not promoted as good of an opportunity, including to myself. I mean, I came out of the heavy industry world, and I did not think of it as a good opportunity. And then years looking back, I'm like, I wish I had been aware. I probably would have made different choices at a young age. And I do think the industry needs to do a better job of just promoting it to a wider demographic of people that are in high school. And it's now maybe in Alberta it is around more. Maybe I'm wrong. But where I was going to school in Kamloops. It was not. And I went to the biggest school in Kamloops. It was just not a thing. There was a little shop class. People were just not getting pulled in that direction at all. Like it didn't exist when I was there.
Yeah. I think also when you look at the new technologies that's available, when you look at the job, mechanic job has evolved quite a bit over the last few years. Nowadays, the main tool of a mechanic is a computer.
Yeah.
It gets to the machine, hook up to the machine, try to understand what's going on with the machine. And you might get their end dirty once they start swapping parts or components, but these jobs have become a lot more technical than they used to be.
And I've been one thing I've been trumpeting now is people want to promote mining. Well, it's in your phone, everything. And I go, like, let's go back further. People do like things. They do like the big trucks. They do like the machines and the technology. I mean, some of the technology companies we've had on. People do like it, but if you don't tell them about it, especially young people, a 16-year-old, if you don't tell them about it, they're not going to go searching for that. They've got enough distractions. You have to put it in front of them. So anyway, that's my little soapbox for the day. But the other thing I want to touch on. Oh, well, Yves, actually, I wanted to just get to answer that same question. What is your what are just the feedback that you see from clients, their sort of pain points?
Oh, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a labor shortage, but kind of going back to automation. Why are our customer looking for automation? Well, again, they've got their challenges recruiting and replacing their operator. bringing new, younger operator into the system. So by going to automation, you get, again, probably a better environment for work, better, and the type of labor that you need to support an automated system is different. You need less operator, more technicians, more electronic technician, computer technicians. So the skills and the type of job are changing or switching quite a bit.
Yeah.
The other thing is the location. A lot of the work can be done remotely instead of having to go down the mine in dirt and in cold and all sorts of weather conditions.
Is that really just before we wrap up? Is that how companies are combating the labor shortage? Is just trying to do it through technology, or have you seen other methods that you've seen be effective?
That's probably the main way when you look at it. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's unique to mining. It's true for everything in the world nowadays. You look at all the technologies that we have in our phone and everything. There's a lot. Individually, we can do a lot more on our own than we used to be able to. So technology is really the way to go when it comes to labor. That's the main answer to me.
Yeah, my proposal is that these companies need to all get together and they need to make little mining playgrounds all over the cities. I don't know if that gets support, but they get kids started, get enjoying young. We loved that when we were kids, and then it fades away. You get your toys taken away, and you get handed books. So
yeah,
so and now you get. I guess
one thing that's different too, and I'm not sure it's different, but you look at all the new mining operation. A lot of them are remote.
Yeah,
and that brings another challenge. It's not like you're in a mining town and basically you hire from the mining town, and from your father was a miner. The next step for you is to be a miner. If you're opening a brand new mine in an isolated location, you gotta hire people from all over Canada, all over the world.
Oh, I was gonna say all over the world. Yeah, we did episodes in Australia. I mean, they are. I mean, as much as Canada, or if not more. I mean, they're having to go everywhere just to try to get people to the mine. It's a very interesting problem. And I know companies like Wajax, bringing in the technology, facilitating all the services. Of course, it's a huge. I mean, to say companies are relying on companies like Wajax to make sure operations run smoothly is an understatement. But gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the show. Some of the topics we covered today, like I said, we could have gone into them at a whole other level, but I think it was a good sort of kickoff to having you on the Mining Now show, just to sort of cover capabilities, and then hopefully we can do some more.
Okay, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Girard. Great time. Take care.
Okay, and thank you everybody for watching. We were going to have links to Wajax, some of the topics we covered. If you go on their website, I was on it. I mean, some of the case studies they have one that says one bearing, one Wajax, 3.5 million saved. We'll put a link to that one. Go find that one. Very interesting. They cover a lot of ground, and we're very fortunate to be able to work with them to highlight some of it. So thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.